You're watching A Million Veteran Millionaires. Change your mindset, change your future.
Okay.
Hi, Bill. Welcome.
Thank you. I was trying to get y'all on full screen. There we go.
Awesome.
I'm technically challenged, and Andy knows it, and he says, do it. He's doing this on purpose to show you how technically challenged.
Oh, goodness. I'm
We're
kind of
walking.
challenged too.
Sorry, hon, say again.
I'm also technically challenged.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll work with each other then. It'll be all right.
Yes, we will. Bill, it is so nice to meet you. I'm Kathy Bowersox, and I have heard your name for years from Grammy and from Dick Harris, and
man,
we've talked about Champions Kids Camp and all of your accomplishments for years, and we've just never crossed paths. So I'm thrilled to finally meet you.
Oh, I'm so glad. It's Debbie, right? Did you say? Or
Kathy.
Kathy Bowersox. Now I see your name down there. I'm sorry to be late. We were walking, and it's so hot today. Normally we get it done, but Kim had to stop several times underneath the tree and in the shade because it's 80 something to 89 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
We're walking to get in shape for our kids camp because that will be summertime, July, and it'll be 98 and 100 degrees, and we're the old guys around campus. So
absolutely.
I wonder how I can keep up with all this because I work on it ahead of time. I don't stay indoors like some people I know that, and then wear their cowboy hat. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean
Yes, you did.
In the spirit of the Texas music best, I'm having to learn how to two-step, and I got my boots being repaired. I'll pick them up on Friday, so I got to learn how to two-step.
Yeah, I hope you do. I got a song I'm working on called, the scenario would be that the guy is in the bar like Gillies or most places, and he sees this pretty girl over there, and these other guys, each one's going over and asking her to dance. Other than that, he has no way to, every time he would try to stand there and talk to her, she'd go dance with somebody. So the idea is, I knew I'd have to learn to dance,
I love that. You know what? And it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Those of us that are dancers, if you don't dance and I'm at Moe's, I don't even want to talk to you. I'm there to dance.
No use introducing yourself if you can't dance, right?
Well, you can introduce yourself, but you're probably not going to really hold my attention if you don't ask me to dance.
Yeah, because the guy who's going to ask you to dance will come up and interrupt the sentence, and you'll go with him. So.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's a good scenario. That's a good scenario to work from.
It's true.
Drink going on. All right. What you got, man?
All
I'm
right.
glad to meet Kathy.
I'm sorry?
I said I'm glad to meet Kathy. You told me a lot about her.
Oh, yeah, she knows Kirby as well, Kirby Lammers. So,
yeah.
Andy, you're pretty quiet. You may want to turn up your sound a little bit.
Hold on, talk about now.
That's better.
I have to toggle my microphone. And Bill, if you lower your camera a little bit, we're getting a lot of space above your head there. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's movie star quality right there.
Oh man, I just got in from walking. I'm all sweaty, but I guess you can't see that in the screen. I just look disheveled, I guess. But,
yeah, you've done music, but have you done any movies or anything?
Movies? No, not well. I was almost in a video once. It's in my book, a story about us. I was hanging out when we lived in Nashville, backstage at I forget that huge place that Opryland built on 2nd Avenue. You might remember the name. They used to video a lot of their shows from there. And so I was down there because a friend of mine was performing that night and Merle Haggard was on the show. So I went and I was hanging around backstage and they introduced me to Merle. And they used that old thing. Bill's the first one to record a Christopherson song. Well, that got Merle's interest right away because he and Chris were big friends. So, a little visit and all that. And then there's a lady had an English accent. She walks up to me and I can't imitate it, but I'll try it. Says she, I say, you have just the look we're looking for our new video that we're going to be doing with Tanya Tucker and with, I forget who the other guy, the person was. And I said, really? I had a pea coat on, and I guess the collar was sort of turned sort of up, and I think I had a ball cap on that day. And so that's the look they were looking for. So they connected with me after a week or so, and they told me when the shoot was, and it was union scale. So I tell Kim, they said, bring 3 or 4 changes of shirts so we can see which one we like the best. So I take 3 or 4, and before I leave, she said, where are you going? I said, well, I told you about that video shoot they're doing, blah, blah, blah. She said, well, I'm going too. I said, well, they didn't invite you. She said, I don't care. So she got herself to the changes of clothes. And so we both went down there. I didn't mind. I was glad she went with me. So
I like her already.
Yeah, you'd like her, Kathy. So we get there and we're all hanging out, and then the producer comes out, and then they start choosing shirts. And the star was the guy, he sang that song. He sang, I've got a drinking problem. You were always on my mind. I can't remember his name. So anyway, come to find out, he didn't bring any other clothes.
Uh-oh.
They liked my black silk shirt that I had, and they said, well, can he wear your shirt? Well, sure, let him have it. So now I don't know what else I wore. So we get in there to do this is a long story, and I'm sorry, but it's funny to me. We get in there and they've got the whole thing set up, and they have the track, where they're running this video camera along the track. And so we rehearsed the deal, and Kim is sitting over in a window next to the guitar player who's playing, and she's kind of, oh, this is good, that type of thing for the music rolling. And my part was I'm hanging at the bar, and just before the camera comes in front of me, I walk in front of the camera and go over somewhere else. So we practiced it 2 or 3 times. So, okay, all right, it's on, turn the red light on. And they start the song, and Kim's over there doing her thing and this and that. And they get just about right there, and they said, cut. And they stopped it. I never got in the video, and Kim.
Oh, no.
Hi, my name is Andy.
I still think that's one of my funniest stories, man. I almost was a star.
And today we're going to be talking to
Almost.
Mr. Bill Nash. He's going to be your Nashville connection. He's a Grammy award-winning songwriter, singer, a musician, and he's also a U.S. Air Force vet. And so we have a vet that's going to talk about the music business, the inside scoop of Nashville. He's written a book called Saint, Sinner, Singer. And I'm here again with my friend Kathy Bowersox, my co-host, who's been helping make this show a lot better than if it was just me. And today I'm in country vibes. I do have a cowboy hat, and we're getting ready for a concert that Bill's and his wife, Kim Nash, are going to put on for Champions Kids Camp here in Houston, called the Texas Music Best Fest at Moe's Place in Katy, June 11th. It starts at 2 p.m. until I guess 6 p.m. or later. So Kathy, again, thank you for being a part. I'm not going to hand it to you like I did last time, but say a few words to Bill. We've been chatting before we went live.
Well, thank you, Andy. Bill, we're so glad to have you here. You have such an amazing background. Over all the years you've worked in Nashville in the music industry. Plus, I understand you were a diamond with Amway also, and that's a huge accomplishment in itself.
Yeah,
I know it takes a lot of work to get there. So you've got some great business experience to share with our audience as well. And then I love what you're doing with Champions Kids Camp. As I mentioned earlier, I've heard about the camp and you for years, and it's such a delight to finally meet you. And I'm really looking forward to hearing about this. Thank you for joining us.
Well, it's my honor. Anytime I get a chance to talk what God has done for me, and I talk about being hopefully one of Jesus' best friends, I want to be, and try to do my best to help my fellow man as I go. I'm trying to make a lot of deposits into my heavenly account, because they won't take money up there. They want to see good works, give a cup of cold water in my name, Jesus said. And so I try to do that. And especially you mentioned, Kathy, Champions Kids Camp. And that's the dearest and most incredible thing God ever put on my plate. And it came about when my son, Billy, who is now 41, was healed of leukemia instantly at Texas Children's Hospital. And it's on record. So it's not one of those, where it has backup. In other words, you can check it out. And one day he had it, and they gave us 1 shot of chemo and sent us home. And 10 days later, we came back after we prayed for him, and it was gone. It was like the doctor said, I don't know how to explain this, but your son's blood has gone normal for a word like normal to be so incredible to us now, it's because it pointed to the incredible miracle that God did for us. So we're just
blessing.
Oh yeah, Kathy. We're just trying to share our life experience and give everybody this praying for something that may have given up praying. Don't give up. Don't give up. God still is around. He still heals. He's not just around. He's everywhere. He's everywhere. Like Santa Claus, they say that old song. But keep him on the front burner of your life. And it's a great way to live. And I'm sorry for your audience, Andy, that I look like this. I ran this afternoon and I came in and now I'm all sweaty and I don't look great for your show. But I like your cowboy hat though, man.
Thank you. Well, actually, we do talk about fitness, health, wealth, love, and happiness. So as an entrepreneur, business owner, living life, it's important to take care of your health, and you're preparing for children. I can't talk today. Champions Kids Camp this summer, and of course your concert that's coming up as well. But I did want to talk about your book, because in your book, and it was a fascinating read. It's 7 decades of Nashville influence, starting with your mom and your dad and your family. So can you take us through a little bit? As I read it, basically you threaded the needle. It's a story of perseverance, dealing with double dealing and because everything didn't quite work out sometimes, but you just picked yourself up. And I think Heaven's going to have song in there somewhere. So maybe some of your thoughts as well.
I like your verbiage. You say dealing with double dealing.
There you go.
Never heard it said like that, Andy. Thank you.
Well, sometimes.
Maybe that's a song, Bill.
It sounds like a song. Actually, it sounds like dealing with double dealing. You don't my feeling. You got me reeling, baby, because I'm dealing with double dealing.
That's a good hook.
I have no idea. So if you write it and put it out, I get half the royalties. So.
There you go. Okay, I'm down with that. I don't even know what royalties mean, but we are going to talk about the business of it, so people can understand more.
You're welcome. You're welcome to. If you want, I'll be glad. I don't know how long your show is. You saw 7 decades there. I think I could talk endlessly for 2 or 3 days because of the way. Hey, I'm an old guy, man, but you know what? I'm proud of it. I'm going to be 78 years old in September. And I always think, I got a great friend that said, isn't it great that we got something to do? And I'm going, man, I'm calling golf courses to get free rounds of golf for our auction at Mo's Place on June 11th. And I'm coordinating talent and I'm blah and and blah, but that's what it takes, man. But God has given me the drive and the will and the desire to help kids like these little old kids. You never know who you're talking to. And I'll tell you a story. Right. Okay, this will be in the book. This story's in the book. And you'll know who I'm talking about because you read the book, Andy. So I go to Nashville. This is in the middle of my life. So I would think I was 24 though. And I got a contract from Jerry Kennedy, the star maker for Mercury Records. I mean, he discovered Johnny Rodriguez. He was he was recording the Statler Brothers, Tom T. Hall, Roger Miller, all those guys. And they all became stars. And I'm the only one that didn't get a hit record. And it's because of whatever God has planned for me. So here's what happened. Now, on a Tuesday morning in Nashville, I'll look at the picture and see, I'll reference the year. Okay, I got a picture of me and that guy in the studio. So what happened? I get to this production meeting. If you record in Nashville, you're going to meet with your producer at some point, a week in advance or 2 weeks in advance, however you set it up, and you're going to go over songs that are all candidates for recording. And everybody in town, like the Reba McEntire hit that we have, she listened to 5,000 songs, and ours was one of the 2 that she picked. But I'll get on with that. So here I am. I'm at a production meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning, and my producer just picks up the phone and dials a number. And he says, when they answered, he said, is the janitor there? And I thought, what's he calling for a janitor for? Really, I was puzzled, man. And so he said, come on over. Bill wants to hear your song. Well, if you've ever lived in Nashville, everybody that waits tables, everybody that works at the car wash, everybody that's doing all these jobs that they don't want to do are hit rock songwriters. They all feel like they are. And they all have a hit song they're trying to get promoted. Well, in the door comes a guy with a black guitar and a burr haircut and blue jeans, sat down, crossed his legs, and he had hush puppy shoes and holes in the bottom of them. And my thought was, this guy can't be too successful. I can't believe he's a hit songwriter, because that's what Jerry told me. And Jerry says, well, sing your song for him, Bill. And he picked up his guitar and he sang these lines. See if you recognize it. Kathy, maybe you'll recognize this song. Don't look so sad. I know it's over. You know it?
Oh, yes, I do. For the good times.
Who's the songwriter?
You tell me.
Chris Christopherson.
Wow.
That's who was sitting in front of me as a janitor, trying to get his songs cut. And I was the very first artist that really loved his songs and recorded it. The next day, we were in the studio across the street at what is now Sony, but at the time it was Columbia Records. And he said, Bill, can I come to the session? And I said, it's all right with me if you want to come. Oh, man. And so the next day at the session, this is a personal note, y'all. He was so excited. And I think he had to have a beer or two, maybe 3 or 4. He was sailing in the wind, but he was so excited. And you know, that impression, and I can tell y'all as a songwriter what it means. Like when we got the news about Reba McEntire, and we got an invitation to go meet her and go to her office and listen to how she cut our song. I'm telling you, I will never forget that experience. I will never, even though I have an Eddie Arnold cut. Eddie was a huge star back in the 70s. You know, we were great friends. Now I wrote 2 songs that he recorded, but this one, man, Reba she's got this great voice, and it meant a lot. So when Chris heard his song and I'm singing it, I heard later from Eddie Rabbit. We were over at a writing session a couple of years later, and Eddie said, Chris dragged me to the pool hall every day to play pool and play that record of mine. It was For the Good Times by Bill Nash. And he said, I got so tired of hearing that song. But those are just some of the personal things that like the people that they really, after you have a hit, here's you want to hear maybe it would be a business type of thing, but they would come to me honestly and they would say, look, I've got a CD of my song. I want you to give it to Reba McEntire for me. And it's like, you don't want to pay the price like I did. You don't want to move your family to Nashville and not know what, after the 3 months worth of savings you got goes away. What do you do then? Do you still believe in that song enough to do what it takes to stay there? I sold books for a while, encyclopedias, just to stay. And man, was it worth it. I mean, you know, you don't know for sure. Christopherson swept floors. He tended bar, all of that. But look at the career we would have missed if Chris hadn't have stayed and had perseverance. And all of those things you talked about in the entrance of the book. I couldn't stand to not give it the best I had and more. And so I encourage, hey, everybody, if you got a dream, the Bible says a man with no dream will perish. But if you have a dream, it will give you energy. It will give you belief, and you'll be glad you did in the end. So there's my business talk, I guess.
Well, Kathy and I were talking about that scene with Chris Christopherson. You know, here you are, basically a star. And of course, Mercury Records, said they're going to put their best people on it. And you had every opportunity to get offended or get upset or just, not appreciate what Chris really had to offer. And too often, I think, we've heard the saying that first impressions are reality. What I've discovered is usually it's the second, third, and fourth impression that's closer to the truth. So, the first time may be a flub and you just like, well, maybe there's something more to it. But, Chris had a lot to overcome and you overlooked a lot. And unfortunately, you mentioned that, you got drafted just before, your song was re-recorded by Ray Price, which I think that song went to #1 for the Good Times, right?
Yeah. You know what? It brought Ray's career back around. And the skinny on that in Nashville, that's kind of a small family, really. I mean, it's like I would drive from the studio to Music Row or whatever. Garth Brooks is turning the corner and he waves and I wave. We didn't even really know each other. Although later on they introduced us and he gave me a guitar one year to auction off at my auction. Man, we made a bunch of money on that guitar of Garth's.
Fantastic.
That's just where you go and live and experience it. And I'll tell you all, that dream has to carry you when you don't have enough money in the bank to pay the rent the next month. And what am I going to do? Well, I picked up a job. Me and Kim used to do background vocals for the major record labels. We were called the best oohs and ahs in Nashville. So that we were very quick with it too, you know, and you're singing behind these different stars and making them sound good as well. Their background music. It's a vital part of a record. So, and that's very, that'll make you some really good money and you can stay out. There's some people have made a career around doing that. Janie Fricke, for instance, she was a background singer and they loved her voice and they gave her a chance. And man, she came along with it. She's got a great voice, you know, it's just, you know, I have a Trisha Yearwood story too, you know, Garth's wife now, but I met her husband before Garth, just hanging out on the road one day. He came by our publishing company and he was handing out flyers. And at Douglas Corners there in Nashville, that's where they do the guitar pulls and then they do like new talent and stuff. And at Douglas Corners is a quaint hamburger joint and it has a stage and you get up and sing your song and blah, blah, blah. So this guy said, my wife's name is Trisha and she's going to be singing down there. And here's the flyer. I wish y'all had come. Well, we had 2 little boys at home. So when we left Music Row, we didn't really come back. We didn't have to. So we didn't go to that. But a few weeks later, we came into our publishing company office and they said, hey, do y'all know, we heard a girl, she sang so great. And they tried to describe her to us. And we didn't really know who she was, but somehow or another, one of the guys said, oh, I think I know who it was. And it was Trisha. So the next morning we come into the publishing company and we walk into the office and there she is sitting there. And I'm going to tell you, she was so quiet. She was not one of those outgoing anything, just was waiting for her turn to sing. I don't remember which one of our songs she put backgrounds on, but she did. I said, man, I wish I could remember which song it was. Now you're listening to the backgrounds and on and on. There's no way to go back and figure out which song it was. But I've always thought that's kind of a neat thing to have in your bio. You know, Trisha Yearwood sang background on one of our songs, and we can't remember the song. No use looking for it. You won't find it.
Yeah.
But anyway, y'all. Well, what else you want to know, Andrew?
Well, so how did you get the music bug? You know, what made you decide to go into music and go down this path? I mean, you traveled to New York with your mom and were on some national TV shows as a young man down the border listening to, I think you were listening to XCRF radio because that was, you got me curious about Wolfman Jack. So I've been studying that radio station down in Coahuila, Mexico. It was 250,000 watts and broadcasted from West Coast to East Coast. But, you know, that world of music, you know, it's an attraction. It's a psychological thing. People vibe to music, different styles, rhythm and blues, rock and roll. Of course, your niche was country, gospel. And, you know, you started with gospel, right?
Yeah, I did. My dad was pastor of a church, a small church in Pharr, Texas, Pharr. It's right next to McAllen, 60 miles from Brownsville, down on the border of Mexico, which is one of the reasons I speak fluent Spanish. I just can't remember all the words I need to say it sometimes. But that's my mother decided to organize the people at our church into a choir. So, you know, we went with her. But when I was a little boy, like 5 years old, 3 to 5, I had a big voice already. God just put it into me before I ever came out of the chute. You know, here I am. And at that, I'm like, I could sing, man, you know, and it would be like, I'll fly away, I'll fly away. My mother told me, you put the feeling in it. That's what she used to say. So she was German. She would make us practice. She found out at choir practice at church that we could sing. My brother went to the bass section, you know, and they sat over there, and I had my little boy voice still. Y'all know the difference in the falsetto, and that's my little boy voice. It's now my alter ego. And George Jones had an alter ego. He was a duck in his alter ego. I mean, that's a whole other story. It's funny as I'll get out, but I'll skip it. But anyway, so I go over to the alto section. That's how high my voice was pitched. And my mom says, you know, See, I didn't want to sing when I was 5 because the people would get so blessed because I was so little and this huge voice came out. They would just, oh my God, oh, thank the Lord. Oh, my, I thought they were making fun of me.
Oh.
I quit. And my mama, my favorite line to my mother was, she said, why won't you sing? They're not laughing at you. They're getting blessed. And I said, well, they don't laugh at you when you sing. So she let me up. But nevertheless, I was 10 years old when we started that. So my mother went, she said, somebody else can lead the choir. I'm going to lead these 2 boys of mine, and we're going to have a trio. So we went home, had a piano at the house, and she pulled out some of those old gospel songs, and, Amazing Grace, I'll Fly Away, just on and on, the old hymns of the church. And we worked them up, and our harmony was absolutely beautiful. My brother with that, he had a very mellow bass voice, but it was down here low. And then I had the medium between them. My mama was singing her high. She had a bell tone voice, and she played her keyboard. She played piano so professionally well. But we did that for 3 years. We sang for every Kiwanis, Lions Club, everything. Anybody would sit still, we'd sing for them. Well, we went to New York City to sing for the Grandmothers Convention at the Statler Hilton Hotel, and we sang that night. Standing ovation. They loved it. And the next thing I know, a little grandma was giving us 3 tickets to NBC television. Well, we'd never been to TV. We'd never been on TV. So we went over there to watch the NBC network shows. The very first one starred Gene Rayburn, the host of the Match Game. So the show was over, and a spotter came by. They have a guy called a spotter looking at the crowd to spot somebody that could be a contestant on their show. And so they came to my mother and said, would you stay around and be interviewed by Mr. Rayburn afterwards, just for a few minutes? So we said, yeah. And here Gene Rayburn comes out, took his coat and tie off and his makeup off. And so when he walked up to where we were sitting, we were on risers. My brother was already 6'1" at 17 years old. And he stood up, and he's standing head and shoulders above Mr. Rayburn. He stuck his hand out, said, we're the Nashes from far. You want to hear us sing? He didn't even say sing. He knew we were rednecks right off the bat. But he said, he kind of did a take back. And he looked at my mom and looked at me and said, well, okay. So they rolled the piano out, sat down. We sang a song, and he was just speechless. Walked away with the music conductor, the head of the music department at NBC. 5 minutes later, here's how my career started. He said, would y'all be on our television show in the morning? On NBC network show. It was like, well, yeah, why not? We called home, told Daddy, tell everybody to meet at the corner restaurant, the cafe, Junction Cafe in Far Texas. We're going to be on TV. And they did. They put a little bitty black and white TV up there in the window at that cafe. And here we came on the TV the next morning. And that's how that afternoon, right after the show, Gene Rayburn just says, you're coming with me. And he and Paul, the guy that was head of music for NBC, put us in a limousine. And we all took off across town. We know where we were going. He didn't tell us. We stopped at this huge church, a real old church. And on the front of it was a shingle that said Columbia Records. So we go in, and we're going to, there was a guy recording at the time, Perry Como's producer was producing. And this guy, I can almost think of his name. He had a big hit. Take 5 was his biggest hit. And he was a big star. And Gene, they all knew Gene Rayburn there. So Gene went in and said, hey, can you take a little break and let the Nashes do a demo tape? And that guy was so pleasant. He said, well, yeah. And he got up and introduced himself to us, and we got to meet him. We made a tape, went home after we'd sung for the Grandmothers Convention that week. 6 months later, we got a contract in the mail. We went back to New York City. Perry Como's producer, producing our first album for Columbia. I got a copy of it over here if you'd like me to show it.
Sure.
I got it right here. I keep them handy. I only have a few of these. That's me.
Yeah, I saw that. That's in your book, right? The picture?
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says, Lord, hear us sing. That's what they titled it. And that's my older brother, Dave, on the left, my mom in the middle. And then you see, I'm just about her height. And I'm 13 there, Dave's 17. And my mom still don't let me tell her age. So God bless your soul, sweet mama. But that album there was one of their biggest sellers that year. And they immediately signed us for a second album. So this time, but Mr. Altschuler, our producer, said, I'm sending you to Nashville this time because Johnny Cash's producer wants to produce y'all. And we said, well, okay, if you have to. So the next year, we ended up in Nashville, Tennessee, recording at that Columbia Studios that Christopherson walked out of to come across the street to Mercury. I mean, this is me at 14. I was probably 14 or so, 15. And that's how the first disc jockey convention was what it was. Now it's called Fanfare, because when you have the stars come to Nashville, then all the fans come to Nashville, and the disc jockeys could hardly get in those rooms for all the fans. So they do a fanfare, and then they do a radio seminar week. I think y'all are probably, maybe, Andy, you might be familiar with Seminar Week. But that's how that goes. And that's how God got me into the music business, called me to it. And I've just never, I've been in hiatus from time to time, but I always come back. Somebody always calls and asks me to come sing or something. And then, you end up writing these songs. We got a new project that's going to come out this coming year, because Andy, we're going to be, and Kathy, we're going to be on a thing called Strike TV. It's STRYK, and it's now all over the world. And we're going to do a Sunday show, 30-minute show, and we're going to do a positive country song and a gospel song. And we're going to try our best to lift the spirits of this world that God knows we need our spirits lifted with what's going on in the government, in the world, and people's lives. They just need to know that Jesus Christ is still the most important thing. And that's not just what I think. It's just from my studies and the research that I've done on it all. I feel very comfortable telling y'all that. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. How about that?
It's a great story. And so I would imagine you've learned, besides the perseverance, dealing with the double dealers that you mentioned earlier, what are some of the lessons that you have learned for success in life and business, in the music industry, as a diamond with Amway, getting to those levels, getting to the success that you have? What would you say your biggest lessons learned are?
Well, there's a thing called cold calling that I don't think any of us like. But no matter what business venture you go into, you're going to go through your warm market pretty dang quick. And if you've already been to them 2 or 3 times and you presented things and they didn't work out, your chances get slimmer and slimmer. And I think that everybody has a call from God on their lives of what they're supposed to do, and they gravitate toward it. And the main thing, I think, is you cannot get so discouraged that you quit. I mean, quitting, it's like you don't have a chance to fail. If you quit, you're done. That's it. You already failed, but you don't fail if you don't quit.
You also don't have a chance to succeed.
Exactly. Well said. Maybe that's what I should have said, Kathy. You don't have a chance to succeed. So perseverance that you guys have been talking about, let me tell you something. When you pitch a song in Nashville, just take that business, for instance. It's the most thankless business I ever had because your results are not instant. I mean, that was just a miracle that Reba picked our song, because we were writing for a major, we'd written for a couple of major publishers, Sony and somebody else. So we already had it in the mill where we knew who was recording, and that's a very valuable tool. But it only came to me by paying the price of going and living there and going to the row every week. And I had some friends from the past, from my recording days, which was a blessing. But all of that came from somebody having the guts to go. My mama and my dad made a sacrifice for us. And so you gather your friends together, and networking is so important in that instance. But then I found out that you can get 9 no's and then get 1 yes, 1 out of 10, and you can do really well. You should not give up just before the next guy. You just don't know what that next guy is going to think. And also when you're making calls and it sounds like they're not interested on the phone, just don't ever shut the door. Never shut the door. Just say, well, we'll talk again soon and blah, 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 and keep it. I think it's almost like when I learned a long time ago, when you're dating, it's like be friends first and friendship and then see what happens. So with people, I try to offer something if I can help you. And now that I have my book, let me send you my book and look at the back of it, because there's where Champions Kids Camp is represented. So some of those stories that started out so sad and so awful turned out it's a 180-degree turn. These kids that came to camp with what we call chin on chest like this, and they want her to look at you, their self-image is in the toilet. They've had something really bad and they think it's their fault. These little girls, 8 to 12 years old, they've been abused. They've been unfortunately, I hate to say the word raped, but they have. It goes on. And you have to bring them back from that and say, listen, not your fault. Not your fault. We love you. God loves you. Jesus died for you. You are so important. Time you have 3 or 4 days to tell them that. We have decision night on Thursday, and we say a prayer over them and ask if you'd like to have Jesus in your heart, just accept him. And they do. And it's just like, you just wouldn't believe how resilient these children are after being through what they've been through. I don't know what y'all's stories are. I'm sure y'all have stories. And, mine, I come from, we were poverty ridden when I was a kid. We lived in a shack. That's where, Andy, when you read the first of that book, my dad and mom were missionaries when I was 5. And I'm going to tell you, there's not a more meager subsistence that I know of. We're living in a shack with an outhouse, no lights, no electric power, no water. We had a well that irrigated the cotton farm, the cotton fields there. And my dad rigged up a garden hose to the shack from the water, the well. We pumped the well and then go run underneath the shower and get wet. And then we'd, get all soaked up. And then we'd go pump the thing again and come back and rinse off. That's how we showered. But in the valley, 100 degrees every day, 9 months out of the year, or 10. But those are things you live through, and you become stronger for them if you don't get jaded about it. If you don't take it wrong. I think it's, man, I made it through that and I didn't quit. But that isn't all my fault. I was encouraged. I would pray, and God blessed us through the Nash family trio. My mother's perseverance to keep on singing at the next church, even though they didn't give you an offering at the last church. You barely had enough to get there, and then somebody gives you a couple of $100 because the Lord told them to. It's an incredibly exciting experience. So,
I think that you're absolutely right. I don't think it matters what you are trying to accomplish in life, whether it is your God-given mission, whether it is a business that you're building and trying to grow and scale, whether it's a career you're building, you have to, as you said, pay the price. You've got, we see these people who we call overnight successes, but it's like the iceberg, right? You only see this little tiny bit of what they've done. You don't see all of this under the surface of the water that they did to get to that overnight success. They've been paying the price. We just didn't know them, so we didn't know it. And I think that in the world today, with all the instant gratification, a lot of people want that instant success in their business or their career, and they're not necessarily thinking about, what are the steps I have to take? What are the things that I really need to do to make sure I can grow this business to a solid business and then continue to be growing it and be even more successful? I think people want to be just instant millionaires, and it doesn't work that way. They've got to have that perseverance, and they've got to have resilience and go through things. I have been through a number of things in my life, and if I didn't have that resilience, I would not be sitting here today. And so I think it makes us stronger. as well.
Yeah.
And we
Agreed.
grow as human beings as we go through challenging things.
Sure.
Kathy, you had mentioned that your one word is transformation before this call.
Yes.
So transformation has a lot to do with it. Now, Bill, you're not by yourself. You have another co-writer. You want to talk about her for a second?
Sure.
You want to chat about the business of music. What is the process? A song gets written, somebody records it. There's publishing, there's radio play. I mean, a lot's changed now with social media and so forth. But give us a crash course in what it takes to be, what it takes to get a song produced, and how do you know it's a good song and all that kind of jazz, if you will.
Well, the best way, listen, I tried to find books that I could figure out that would tell me how to write a hit song. How do you do that? Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. There are no books that'll tell you how do you write a hit song. They can tell you about rhyme. They can tell you about pattern. They can tell you about a bridge. They can tell you about a channel. All these terms that we use when you're writing a song. But how do you apply that? Well, there's really nobody can teach you how to get an idea. It's like Henry Ford hired idea people. He said, I hire people with ideas like that. And Ford even still uses that as their motto. I thought from time to time, Ford has a better idea. That comes from, you need an idea for a song. So here's an example. I'm not sure how wide range I'm going to get with this, but we're just talking. So we there's a huge club in Nashville down at the Stockyards. It's called the Stockyards. And they have talent every night. They have a stage and they have a band and they have different guest stars, and everybody that's anybody has been there for a big stake in it actually was the place where they used to buy and sell cattle. And they have these little rooms. Well, they made each one of those little rooms like a private dining room, and you can take your guests and go in there and have your own private dinner. And then you go downstairs and you sing, and you on the stage they have the band. You dance and you do whatever, and then you have a special guest. So Kim and I went down there to see a group that came in from Texas. They were friends of ours, and that was when they still smoked in the clubs. I don't know if how long it's been since you've been to a club where they had cigarette smoke. Man, it used to be killer. You sat way in the back because she's allergic to cigarette smoke, near where she would get as far away from it as she could. And I went up to say hi. And I said to this guy's name was Tommy, Big Tommy Riggs from Texas, great entertainer. And I said, hey, Tommy, we're here, Bill and Kim. And said, oh, hey, Bill, we're setting up, man. Tell Kim we asked about her. So I go back to the table and I get back there and I go, Kim, they asked about you. And we both looked at each other right then and said, they asked about you, wrote it on a napkin. Wrote the chorus on the way home. You've heard that old story Carl Perkins used to talk about. He wrote Blue Suede Shoes on a paper sack. So we wrote it on a napkin. Well, we had the chorus and we wrote the first verse in the next couple of months or so. And then the song sat idle for like a year. And then it was like, well, Reba McEntire's fixing to cut going to put out a greatest hits album. This song sounds like it could be her. We got to finish it. We weren't getting any ideas for the second verse of the song. So we'd made friends with a guy named Freddie Weller, who used to play for Paul Revere and the Raiders. You remember that group from the 60s? I don't know if y'all do or not, but they were very popular. And he was a guitar player. So Freddie and I and Kim got together down in Music Row, and we wrote the second verse. And then this is how you do a song. You go to the studio yourself. You pay for the recording yourself, and you get a demo made with the Nashville Cats. I mean, we were playing with the same people that actually the keyboardist was Reba's keyboardist. They all work during the day because they're not singing every night with a star like that. She's on weekends and she flies in her jet. She flies home every night to be in her own bed. Well, that's that level of show business. Well, these guys are still wanting to work. So we're in the studio and we're working on every idea we think that could attract Reba McEntire to our song. And here's a little key for you. You know, Reba has these what we call Reba-isms, and she can do these things with her voice that's incredible. And Kim picked up on some of that, and we didn't try to imitate her to a T, then that would have been too obvious. But if you do a couple of Reba-isms here and there, it's like, oh, that sounds familiar. So we did that. So it was time, it was like we found out Reba had an office across the tracks before she built that multi-million-dollar building down on 17th Avenue, which is incredibly gorgeous in the studio. We've recorded there even. We used to write for Reba, and so we were in there. So I took the tape where I knew where to go, because that's being like in the songwriting music publishing company. A bunch of friends by this time. And I had a cassette tape. That'll tell you how long ago, 1994. And I got to her office, and in the outer office, it had a sign that said, "Drop tapes here," with an arrow down to a wicker basket on a small table. And so I threw my cassette tape in there, and I turned around to walk off. And I can't tell you, I had even 1 ounce of faith. I said, "Fat chance of that." I remember saying that so well. And I walked out to my car, and I got in and said, "Well, I tried." Talk about no faith. But you know what? Even with no faith, you got to make yourself go, even when your emotion tells you this ain't going to happen. You got to go give it a try anyway.
I forget how many songs they listened to before they picked that. It was like 1,500 songs or something?
1,000.
Yeah.
We listened to, and we know that because she personally told us that later after she cut the song. So a month later, we got a call from her record producer, Tony Brown. And his secretary called and said, "Would you bring a tape of that song by Mr. Tony Brown's office?" "Yes, ma'am." I was there in like 10 minutes. Yeah. Read off another copy of it. And I'm down the road. Nashville, all of the songwriters and the publishing companies and record companies are all right there close. Now, I just took it down there to his office. 1 month after that, at 11 o'clock in the morning, we get a call, and it's Reba's head of her publishing company. He says, "Would y'all like to come hear how Reba cut your song?" You know what? We were still on nightclub hours, and if I hadn't had to take the boys to school at 8 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't have been up. But Kim was still asleep, sound asleep. So I go back to the back of the house, our bedroom, and I said, "Kim, Reba cut our song." And she sat up straight in bed and went, "What?" And I said, "Our song." She did like that, man. It was like we were screaming and jumping up and down, and it was like crazy because we knew what it meant. Not only long lasting, but financially. I mean, a song by Reba, my gosh, airplay is where you really, in those days, well, even now, airplay would be great, but it's all kind of with Sirius radio on board and all of that kind of stuff. I'm not sure where all that goes. We haven't had a major star release like that recently, except Diamond Rio. Man, that's how the Grammy came about. That's a separate issue. But man, we went to meet Reba, and she met us at her office, and we took our boys out of school that day. Oh, what a great and glorious day. And she took us into her office, and she has memorabilia like I do. This is what I call my walls of shame. They're all over, from like the biggest stars in the world are fans of Reba's. And she was so kind to my little boys. She's a family person. She was real, y'all. And we absolutely love Reba Mack. And they played her song right there. And I'm going to tell you what, there's a note in there that we had actually, we chiseled that note out for that word, for that vowel, that sound. And all the walls around my heart came crashing at my feet when they asked about you. They asked about you. I was doing okay until they asked about you. And it was based on the premise of, in high school, you have a girl break up with you, and then somebody next day will say, "How you and what's her name doing?" "Oh, don't bring it up." "Oh," And Reba said, if you go to YouTube and pull up "They Asked About You" by Reba McEntire, she's at some big venue, and somebody posted on YouTube, and she says, "This is one of my favorite songs." Man, the first time I heard her say that, it was like, "Kim, did you hear that?" So it's those little things that God gives you from time to time to encourage you, if you'll look for the encouragement. And here's a little scripture for you. "Despise not the day of small beginnings." Just because it ain't a lot happening now, if you'll just put time and effort in it, and like Kathy was talking about a while ago, perseverance, just please stay at it. Now, you may have to adjust your pitch. You may have to adjust this or that, but keep your goal in mind and keep heading that way. And something good will happen. Something good.
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier too about how important your network was. How did that help you as you were working in the music industry and dealing with all the stars that you were writing for and all that? How important was your network, and how did you take that network and use the asset that was to you to grow and be even more successful than you were?
Well, in the music thing, I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
In the music thing, the network, it's kind of like, even here in Houston, we have a network of musicians and pickers that stay up with each other. And, when we did our last session here for this song, This Little Light of Mine, we did that locally. But we were in Nashville last September recording 3 new songs. We re-recorded In God We Still Trust along the lines of Diamond Rio's version of it. And then we recorded 3 new songs. I can't wait for y'all to hear. But the network is like, when you need something, you can call somebody that's a friend of yours. In fact, we have a line of a song here. This is cool. I mean, you meet people through your networking. You meet them and then you write songs with them. This is how it translated for us. And a guy named Don Goodman in Nashville. You can Google that guy. He's got 3 typewritten pages of names of stars of people he's written hit songs for. And I mean, it's from Sonny and Cher to, just on and on, Alabama, all those big things. And he and I wrote a lot of songs, and he and I and Kim, we wrote a lot of songs together. Here's what happens. That one day I was struggling with a line, and it's in the song called Flag Wavers. If it wasn't for flag wavers, the doers and the prayers, you wouldn't have the right to say what you think is wrong. So I was in the verse, and it says, I'm not blind. So, these days I'm amazed at what I hear in the news. Can't believe what they're doing to our red, white, and blue. And when they burn me, well, I know they burned Old Glory on the steps in Washington, and that was our first line. On the steps in Washington, it's time for folks like you and I. And I called Goodman, and I said, Don, I am stuck. And he said, well, he calls me Wilbur, and I'll call him Orville. And it's a funny thing the songwriters have on it. I said, hey, Wilbur, I can't get the line to this song here. Can you help me out? And he said, what is it? And I said, when they burn Old Glory, he said, it lights a flame under us. It lights a flame under us. That was so perfect, because when they burn Old Glory, a flame under us. And it's time for folks, for you and me, like you and me, to say, that's enough. And that's a good sermon for today. All the people that say they're doing good and they're burning buildings, and that's happening in America. Not getting into politics, y'all, but that's just crap. Shouldn't happen. But anyway, that's the network part. And then there's also the network knows you. It's like they're looking for somebody to do backgrounds on. There was a guy that did a song about, I've got a drinking problem. You are always on my mind. It was kind of a thing like that. I think we alluded to it a while ago. But they were looking for background singers. So they called us because we had sung around and they knew us, and they loved, God gave us great favor with our singing. And that's how we got that job. We made $700-800 that weekend, just on a 4-hour less session. And so that keeps you going, and then it just adds up. And then the best thing to do is to learn how to give of what you have to help somebody else, because it's more blessed to give than receive. But the giving will help you on down the line. You just never know how that will come back to you, to give of your own self. Like when they call us to go sing for a benefit for a charity. We've met people that have hired us for parties at the charity we were singing for free for. So it works together. You learn to give. That network will help you when you need a songwriter or you need, it maybe more than a line like we did with Freddie Weller when we wrote They Asked About You. Well, that helped Freddie a whole bunch too. Everybody was wanting to write with us after we had that hit too. It's like, hey, y'all need to come write with us. So that's just how it works.
I think you're absolutely right. And I'm sure Andy shared with you that this whole Million Veteran Millionaires program came out of my Network and Action Business Force groups, 2 of which are veterans groups.
Wow.
And that's one of the things that we talk about in our organization and with our members is, you have to think about how can I help the other people that are involved, not only in the group, but in my entire network, because you never know where something is going to come to you. And it might not be that same person that you helped that it comes back from, right? It may be you helped that one person, and through their network, eventually somehow it comes back to you, or somebody else in your network gives to you. And so it's not always that one for one, but I've seen people out there in the business world networking that, and I'm sure you have too. I know Andy has, and Steve, you probably have too, where you meet them and the first thing they're doing is handing you their business card. I don't even have your name yet. I don't even know if I want your business card or if I want to have you in my circle.
Yeah.
How about we have a conversation and see how we can help each other, and if we can, and then maybe let's look at building a relationship from there. And I think you also hit on that it's about starting as friends, just like in dating. That's a great foundation to have in your business relationships and your networks. I think it's important to have people as your friends, helpers, colleagues.
Right. Agreed.
Partners in crime. When you talk about partnering with people to write a song, there's absolutely no reason people can't partner with others in business that are aligned with them.
Yeah.
That they could both benefit from working together and both grow their networks that way. So I think your stories are a perfect example of how to network effectively and be successful and make a difference and still grow and scale your business through the network that you have.
Yes, ma'am. Well, that's all well said. Well said, Kathy. Where were you when I needed you? Appreciate it. Yeah, it's encouragement. And when you speak a word of encouragement to somebody, you just never know how they may need it at that time. And it'll come back and bless you later when they may encourage you as to what you're doing. I got a guy who played on some of my records here in Houston. Sorry, and then he moved to Nashville. He himself was a picker and singer, and he played bass and he sang harmonies on my backgrounds. His name was Jim Collins. Well, if you look Jim up, he's one of the most successful writers of all time from Nashville now. And he went there to be an artist. And when that didn't work out, he was going to leave town. And one of the songwriters through his network of friends that he had made by writing songs said to him, Jim, you are a writer. Don't leave Nashville. Let's keep trying. And that guy had already had hits, and that encouraged Jim. He wrote songs like The Good Stuff for, he's a huge artist. He has his own radio show on Sirius Radio, Barefoot in the Sand or something. He and Mayfield and Tom, Tim McGraw is one of Tim McGraw's best friend. I can't think of his name. Well,
I'm drawing a blank too. I know the song.
Yeah. Well, that's not the only one he's written, y'all. Gosh, he's written several #1 big hit songs. He lives in a palace in a mansion in Nashville, and he's a
Kenny Chesney.
Kenny Chesney. That's right. That's right. Kenny's recorded 3 or 4 of Jim's songs, but man, everybody's cut Jim's songs. And he's
Google.com.
Great guy. Do what?
Go ahead.
You were in Amway, right, Bill?
Yeah, Andy and Kathy had talked about, we haven't talked about it, but my experience in Amway was a diamond, yes.
Did you know Dewey Tobias or Coleman Orr? Or
Yes, I knew Coleman Orr. He spoke for
a friend of mine.
Man, the guy was inspiring. I mean, those kind of guys that can talk like that get you going. Yes.
I didn't meet him in Amway. I met him in the securities business. I saved him from going to jail, but other than that, that's another story. He died, by the way.
Well, I'd be friends with somebody if they saved me from going to jail. I promise you that. I'd keep.
Who wouldn't?
I Valadez, yeah. Hey, well, you know what? Andy is Andy, I think the other day you talked about it. We were at the radio station doing that promo about me being involved with the porno king of America and didn't know it. My manager didn't bother to share with me that that's who that guy was. So when you talk about being in jail and all that, man, I missed that one just like, oh, by the skin of my teeth. Thank you, Jesus, for getting me out of that.
It seemed like normal people in the book. And then you said, you know, people can Google them, but the guest house was 10,000 square feet. So you were in a very cool place and they received you well. The wife was cool and little did you know, right?
Yeah.
You also, that's part of your narrative. The Lord has protected you from, I think one time you got into, I guess some people wanted to claim copyright for your song that you wrote for Reba. And thankfully a good lawyer showed up to defend you, you know, to get the rights to your intellectual property. You know, that was your song and they try to glom onto it.
Yeah. You know what? The law says, and we didn't even know this ourselves till our attorney informed us that though in 1970 something, they made a law, it's in Congress, that a guy like me that writes a song and somebody else, they used to have it this way, where if you said to, like you had three people, you got a guy that wants you to sign up with his publishing company and one of his friends there, and he asks me about the song, and I should just say orally, okay, you can have the publishing on my song. That used to be, if that guy, the third party there said, yes, I heard him say it. He said, my friend can have the publishing. That was it. They made you sign with him. And it was a terrible thing where some of the writers in New York, some of the neophyte writers that had no idea of the business side of it. And remember this, it's show business. Don't get that business thing messed up because that will screw up the show every time. Well, we were friends with these people, and I had set up this publishing company, and we were all writing in the same building, and they thought that gave them the right to have the publishing to the song, but that isn't how it is. I did not sign with them because, as you know, they ended up changing the lock on the door. That's how I found out I was out. And that was like, okay, what's happening, God? What's happening? What happened was Reba Mack cut our song and we kept the publishing, and they sued me because they put us in there. They didn't know the law well enough themselves, and my lawyer did. And so they lost the suit. They didn't even go to court with it. And you know what happened? Here's a side, well, maybe I told it in the book. Reba McEntire was married to Blackstock. His last name was Blackstock, Norval Blackstock at the time. Norval caught me in the hall there at Reba's office. Starstruck Publishing. All of Reba's stuff is named Starstruck Publishing. Starstruck. She has 2 or 3 airplanes. What do you call it when you lease a private jet for a trip or whatever? Starstruck this, Starstruck that. He handed me a check for $5,000 because that cost me $10,000 in legal fees. And he said, Bill, I know that you had to go to the mat with this, but I wanted to be sure and share this with you. So no matter what Reba and Narwhal's deal was, I can tell you that day in the hallway at Starstruck Publishing Company, that guy shared the load with me. And I always appreciate it so very much. So that's not enough.
Let's make sure we talk about Kim before we exit, because you credit her with being a very great writer. Y'all wrote a song, "In God We Still Trust," and she made the significant contribution to that song in the title, right?
Yeah, we were going to write for a project And we had a guy that was we were working with on the project, putting up the money for the other things that we were doing. But we were writing these songs, and he said something about writing a patriotic song. So then we started woodshedding like, One Nation Under God, or there's a lot of sayings like that. You know, y'all carry that forward. And Kimberly says, in God we still trust. She said, now I could write that. Well, what I would like to impress to the crowd, that is like an anointing. When that came to her, it's a God thing. It came to her, God gave her the talent, and he gave her the title, In God We Still Trust. We started on it, and before I knew it, at 2:00 in the morning, my wife is in the living room banging on the piano, saying, God we still trust. You know, she's not the greatest piano player in the world, but she's the loudest one, I can tell you. So loud, you got to be talented to play that loud. But she had the song going on, man, and then she said, I need you to listen to these lines. So I listened to her line and to say, that's great. I can't add anything to that. By the time we got done, I think I had a word or two in there, but that's how partners work with songs. You know, it's like, In God We Still Trust. And my input about the lines as we went was part of the writing. So I had a significant role, but she came up with the actual words out of the role. I'm suggesting this and that. And it just seemed like every time she would suggest a line, that was the perfect one. So I want to give her that credit. She's a great songwriter and a great singer. And I'm so proud of my beautiful wife. I tear up, y'all. Isn't that crazy? 41 years I've been married to this beautiful woman. She gave me 2 beautiful sons, and now I got 2 beautiful grandchildren. I love it. God has been so good to me. Coming from poverty, from nothing, less than nothing. And I look at my walls and I say, thank you, Jesus, for what you've given me. I appreciate it. And I'll never, ever quit telling people how much Jesus loves them. And I got a big old thing. I wish you could see it. Reba McEntire, she said it's this big, y'all. And it's glassed in. Picture of her with that long red hair. Kathy, you remember when she had the long?
I do.
That was her most beautiful days. And she got 3 platinum CDs and then a platinum cassette. And it says, presented to Kim Nash to commemorate the sale of more than 3 million copies of MCA Nashville cassette and CD, Greatest Hits Volume 2. And there's a thing in there I read the other day that said, thanks for being a part of the largest grossing country concert of 1994. That's what that album was. And now it has sold 11.2 million albums. It's our highest selling album that God put us on. And you want to hear the recent count of how many times it's been played?
Sure, absolutely.
EMI Broadcast Music told me the other day, 1,017,842 times our song has been played around the world somewhere. How do you like that?
Amazing.
Thank you, Lord Jesus. Amazing.
We had some great success, and it sounds like really made a great difference, helped other songwriters come along and made some introductions for them. And clearly you've been blessed.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Kids Camp is coming up fairly soon. It's in July, right?
That's right. On the 16th of July, we'll be at Carolina Creek Christian Camp. That's a Sunday afternoon, and we'll check in campers. We already have close to 100 8 to 12-year-olds, and then we have our interns that are leaders in training that are 13 to 16, and then we have our champs. We don't call our older counselors. A lot of our children, these kids are survivors of an accident, an illness like cancer, or a personal loss, the loss of mom, dad, sister, brother. And some of them have been in like the foster care children. A third of our kids last year were foster care. They've seen some incredible things. Some of them have been horribly abused. Some of them have been taken for granted and treated like trash. And when they come to our camp, we we give hugs, we give treats, we give food, for their heart and their mind and their soul through the songs we sing. Yeah, well, we wrote a song called "We're All Different and It's All Right." We're all different and it's all right. No, now I can't sing my own song. Come on, Bill. I was trying to think of the words. It's really cool, but it's old rock and roll. We took an old rock and roll. Then we got a song called "I Believe in You." I believe in you. Always remember, I believe in you. Something a parent should always tell a child.
Yes.
I believe in you. A lot of these kids don't have, I don't think we've ever had a kid that had both parents. They've been divorced, they've been through it, or the death of one or the other of the parent. We had a little boy named Maddox last year, heard a gunshot in the middle of the night in the front yard. The dad commits suicide. How do you unsee that?
You don't.
You don't. You're right. Thank you, Kathy. 6 years old. His mom kept looking for something because he couldn't get over it. 8 years old. She finds Champions Kids Camp online. She brings him to camp last year, drops him off on Sunday. He cried when she left, wanted to leave with her. She knew he needed help and she couldn't get it. She couldn't help her own son. They had a new little baby before this guy did this. So this little boy has taken on the role of the man of the house at 6 years old. That's what they do. So when his mama left, he felt like, oh my God, who's going to take care of mommy? Well, and she knew better. So she left him. Well, he cried Sunday and Monday and Tuesday. Every time I'd go by, I'd say, Maddox, how you doing? Oh, Uncle Bill, I want to go home. And I said, okay. Tuesday night, we call mom. She comes out to have lunch the next day, Wednesday. And as he's going back to the dorm to get his suitcase with his counselor, his champ, he says to the champ, I sure wish I had one more chance at that zip line. Because the zip line, you have to climb up 40 feet, and then you strap it in, and then you have to push off. If you have never done that, they've only made me do it twice. And I'm not doing it again. I don't care. But it's scary, you know. But after 21 minutes, we held the group down because he was going to go home, and we wanted him to try. Maybe if he could just have this one success out of that whole time. And sure enough, he finally pushed on. And he was halfway down. My wife was sitting in a golf cart with his mom waiting, and he zooms by, and he gets off the zip line, takes all the cables off, and comes running up to his mom. Mommy, I got to do that again. He was all smiles and this and that. And here's what happened. He broke the spirit of grief. He broke the spirit of fear by pushing off. And then the grief just disappeared as he conquered that zip line. Oh, God used the zip line to bring this little boy back around out of the grief. He's had a great year at school. We keep up with him now, and he's coming back. And if y'all come out, Andy, you got to come out. Kathy, please come have lunch with me one day.
I would love to.
30 minutes from Conroe. It's 30 minutes from Conroe. That's all it is. Come have lunch and meet Maddox and meet, a ton of other kids and some of our champs. Been with us 15, 17 years. These kids keep coming back because we keep loving them.
I understand from some of the conversations that I had with Kirby, a mutual friend of ours, and I know he's involved in the program, is that a lot of your children who are campers end up becoming champs and continuing to give back to the program, right?
Yes. Most of our workforce, you call it that, our volunteers in the teenage group, are kids that started with us at 8 years old. So in fact, there's one young lady named Lauren. She came to us at 8 years old. She's now graduated from LSU with honors, and she's teaching in Angleton as a teacher. And she keeps coming back every year to help us. And she's so dang smart, dadgummit. She is just so good with the computers. I am terrible at computers. If Andy hadn't sent me a link where I just click on it, I might not have been on this Zoom call with you guys, but I sure have enjoyed your visiting. It's so good to make your acquaintance, Kathy. You look great on the tube, baby.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I look
Yes,
forward
ma'am.
to getting a chance to meet you in person and to getting to build a friendship with you.
Please, please.
Love to
I
hear
hope you'll
about you
come.
and what you're doing all these years.
Hey, yeah, for sure. And hey, June 11th, Kathy, please come be our guest. I would love for you to come. I'll get a couple tickets up for you. I think Andy did. I offered Andy some tickets, and I don't know what he did with them, but
I would
I'll be
love
seeing you,
to
I guess,
come
Thursday.
and support y'all in that for sure. Thank you
fantastic.
for the offer and the invitation. I'm grateful.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me on here. I guess you're about to wind it up, are you, Andy?
Yeah, we're going to wrap this thing. So thank you again, Bill, for being on with us to talk about the music business. And of course, in marketing, you use music for jingles and write songs. I think you've written songs for Mattress Mac and Moe's Place. We'll probably include this in the bumps for the video. And the business of the music business, because a lot of people don't know it is a business, like you mentioned. And thank you for lending your voice. We've had some past guests from Machine Gun Preacher to Frank McKinney, Akshay Donavati. We had Ruben Gonzalez, 4-time Olympian. And who do we have recently?
Oz. Mark Geist, one of the defenders at Benghazi. He was our guest last month.
The Marine vet.
So
So this
subject of the movie 13 Hours and the book.
Yep.
Wow.
And so we said that you don't have to be a veteran to participate. It's just a deep mind, or just we've got resources on the website, books that we recommend. There's marketing AI intelligence. We've got resources. We've got a blog. And of course, all these interviews are archived. We're also doing features on veteran business owners that we do regularly. So you can just visit the website, veteranmillionaires.com. We're dovetailing with the Veterans Business Force, local as well as national. Kathy just launched the national part. You want to talk about that, Kathy? Veterans Business Force National?
Thank you so much, Andy. I appreciate that. So I think I mentioned earlier that Million Veteran Millionaires has come out of my Veterans Business Force National Group that I'm in the process of growing enough to be able to launch. I'm hoping to launch it in the next month or so. And it was Andy's brainchild, and I just think it's an amazing idea because the goal is to help 1 million veterans to grow and scale their businesses to 1 million to 5 million and help them be successful. And, Bill, as we talked about earlier, one of the ways to do that is to have a great network and to help others achieve their goals, and they will help you achieve yours. And so if any of you out there are veterans that are interested in getting involved in a network of other veteran business owners, so you have that camaraderie with other veterans and you have tools and resources and people to help you grow your businesses, we would love to talk to you and bring you into the NIA Business Force family. And another thing that I want to mention before I wrap up is, Andy, you have a new promotion with the American Legion, don't you?
Oh, yes, thank you. So I do a lot of volunteer work with the American Legion, Marine Corps League, and other veteran type groups because I really believe as goes the veteran goes the nation, especially Bill alluded to the challenges we're having in our time. And so vets are mission focused. And ultimately, I got invited or volunteered to be the 2nd Division Department of Texas American Legion PR officer. The 2nd Division is probably one of the largest in the U.S. It is comprised of 6 districts, 95 posts, and 53,000 members. And so thankfully, the leadership is interested in implementing and supporting a focus on entrepreneurship and business. So Butch Sparks is the new vice commander for the division. And so he will be helping me to get our message out to all the posts about entrepreneurships and even career. A lot of the millennial boomer X, like myself, boomer and Gen Zers, that's they're 20, 21. They'll be vets here in a year or so. But they're busy with their career, their family, and so we really want to integrate with the American Legion. It's been around over 100 years, and the 4 pillars are Americanism, veteran rehabilitation, national security, and children and youth. So, Bill, we need to talk to the American Legion about Champions Kids Camp as well. As a veteran, you can get support with the American Legion, and they help founded many organizations like the Boy Scouts and the junior shooting programs and the oratorical contests, the boy states and girl states. So they've been around a while. and they're always looking for good organizations to support. They've really helped out with Wheelchairs for Warriors and Honor Flight here in Houston. And so anyway, it's going to be fun to be able to grow other PR officers and maybe integrate them with what we're doing here as well.
Hey, you know what? I joined the American Legion many years ago when I first got out of the military, and then I moved to Houston after that, and I never did pick up with a post here, but maybe we could figure out something, In God We Still Trust could be a great title of some kind of musical work that we could put together with flag wavers. If you haven't heard those, if you come Thursday, or I hope you can, for Deborah, I would like to play you these songs and see if there isn't something that we could work our music career in to promote the American Legion to the world somehow or another, Andy. Let's talk about that. I'd be up for.
We have chaplains at the post level all the way up to national, so definitely there could be some alignment there. You can come speak, to the post, and they will support, write checks, but you have to go to different posts, even the division level. So anyway, a lot of possibilities. So just was thinking about that. So anything else, Kathy, you want to say before we head out?
No, Bill, thank you again for sharing your wisdom and your experience with us and our audience that will be seeing this. Great information, in particular for anybody who might want to get into the music business, but great information for anybody who wants to succeed in business as well. And I love what you're doing for the kids, and I look forward to being a part of what you're doing this year.
We surely welcome you, Kathy, and thank you for your big heart. And Andy and I getting back together like this after being friends for a long time. We just kind of had a hiatus in there somewhere, but it's really an honor to be on your outlook that you're doing, outreach. And I wish you the best with it. If I can help you in any way, see that's that give and take that we can do.
Absolutely.
And I believe that we could the Bible says one can put 1,000 to flight, but two can put 10,000 to flight. So it's synergistic. Let's see what God has to do with us and see if we can't make this music thing work for us. And you guys need a theme song. The American Legion needs a new theme song. We need to write something.
You're right. Yep. Well, we're going to put a link to Champions Kids Camp on the front page. Go ahead, Kathy.
I said that would be fantastic.
All right. Well, think about it.
One thing to keep in mind this weekend, we're heading into Memorial Day. And of course, Memorial Day is about those that have fallen in battle. It's not necessarily a Veterans Day, but it's just a remembrance of those that actually died serving our country. So as we head into Memorial Day, we want to give those families and those vets a salute. And thank you for watching A Million Veteran Millionaires. Change your mindset, change your future, but have a song in your heart. See you next time. What would happen if you started or took your business to $1 million, $2 million, or $5 million in annual revenue? What would that mean to you personally, your family, community, and your network? It can happen. A Million Veteran Millionaires is a mindset engineering Zoom call platform created to rally and gather veteran startups or veteran-owned businesses who want to work together to help each other succeed. We will first focus on changing mindsets that keep you back and go through a process called mindset engineering to take steps to achieving success. We will feature other successful business owners who are leading the way, who are supporting this mission. We are limited to 100 attendees initially. The cost is free to attend. If you would like to know more, please visit amillionveteranmillionaires.com. You deserve to have a successful business, and we want to help you. Change your mindset, change your future. America needs veterans more than ever. As a veteran business owner, you are equipped with a focus, professionalism, and dedication that is rare in the marketplace. We are looking for former military, make it happen business leaders like you to join forces with the marketplace mission called Veterans Business Force National, a division of Network in Action Business Force based in Houston, Texas. We are rallying patriots to work together to grow opportunities for yourself, each other, and our community around the country. We meet once a month via Zoom to share our vision and align with fellow warriors. Together, we are stronger. Google Veterans Business Force National to find us before we find you. Apply to join our mission at networkinaction.com. We are Veterans Business Force National, on mission and locking arms.